For BYU-Idaho Radio, I'm Brandon Isle with your evening headlines for Friday, April 11th, 2025. Thanks for listening. Idaho State Police is investigating a deadly crash that happened last night on Highway 26. ISP says a 63-year-old man from Irwin was driving east in a white BMW when it went off the left shoulder of the road. He was driving east of Palisades. Troopers say the driver was not wearing a seatbelt and died in the crash. Troopers are still investigating. Chubbuck police need your help to find a missing woman. The family of Marianne Heuser reported her missing yesterday. Police say she could be with friends in Salt Lake City. Her family is worried about her and hope the community can help find her. You can see her picture on her Facebook page. Just follow BYU-Idaho Radio. If you know where she is, just call the Chubbuck Police Department at 208-237-7172. BYU-Idaho held its winter commencement ceremonies today. More than 2,400 students received bachelor's and associate degrees. The commencement speaker was Elder John C. Pingree Jr., a General Authority 70 of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He told the students 3 principles to help them be disciple leaders in the church, in their homes, and in their communities. First, he said, is that God has a plan for each of us. Second, God wants us to bless others. And third, God will strengthen us to accomplish great things.
This final principle is contingent upon the first 2. When we follow God's plan for us and dedicate ourselves to serving others, He will empower us. Even when we face obstacles, we can be assured that He will enable us to accomplish what He asks of us.
Other speakers included Brother R. Kelly Hawes, who is the Secretary of the Board of Trustees of the Church Educational System, and BYU-Idaho President Alvin F. Meredith III. You can listen to Elder Pingree's talk in the coming days on our podcast feed. Just follow BYU-Idaho Radio on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. The Behind Gray Walls podcast celebrated its 100th episode and celebrated 5 years of making episodes about the history of the old Idaho Penitentiary. The podcast focuses on the people who have lived and worked in the period during its 101-year history from 1872 to 1973. Samuel Anderson is one of the hosts of the podcast and the education and research coordinator for the old Idaho Penitentiary. He was inspired to do this podcast.
It's something in which we try to tell the entire story of those incarcerated and try and be fair in the way we tell those stories.
Anderson says the podcast also tells the stories of correctional officers, guard staff, and the victims of the crimes.
We want to make sure we're representing how complicated a lot of these situations were and show the real-life consequences of some of these actions.
Anderson is just one of the hosts of the podcast. Anthony Perry and Sky Cranny also come together with him to share these stories, to remember the past, and take a different look for those who have been working in place inside of the prison, whose stories simply can't be read on a plaque.
I would say just a better, deeper understanding of the humanity that lies within corrections. Understanding that we're all human beings and a lot of people make mistakes. And it's a difficult, place to serve time in prison and to adjust after life, after you're released from prison. And then the folks that work within the institutions, I just have such a profound respect for them that, we often don't hear about those heroes, those correctional officers that are working day in and day out.
You can find the episodes of this podcast at history.idaho.gov/behindgraywalls. Thanks for tuning in. These have been your evening headlines for Friday, April 11th, 2025. More news, interviews, and great content are available on our podcast feed. Search for BYU-Idaho Radio on your favorite podcast apps. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and more. You can also ask your smart speaker to play KBYI 94.3 FM. This is BYU-Idaho Radio, and I'm Brandon Isle.